Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a new theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. Talking musicals to me today is Rob Madge. And I am wearing a The Show Must Go On t-shirt in honour of 5 years ago, our country went into lockdown during COVID. And in deepest, darkest lockdown, I remember discovering a little piece of joy and light, courtesy of our guest, Rob Madge, who had decided to give the world some homegrown family video footage from their childhood. An absolute masterpiece depicting a primary school-aged Rob dressed as Mary Poppins, I think, with the biggest bow tie you've ever seen, performing a homemade Disney parade. The pièce de résistance is Rob dressed as a superbly voluptuous Ariel, scooting around the living room, complete with a whole haberdasher's stock of red and orange wool on the head as a wig. It resonated with so many of us out there in lockdown land, all of whom adored Rob and their wonderfully supportive stage management and crew, otherwise known as mum, dad and their grandparents. More videos were forthcoming, along with some absolutely superb videos from grown-up Rob, lampooning the weird and wacky world of musical theatre. They went on to write and perform their own solo show, celebrating the incredible Madge family and their support throughout their difficult childhood. My sons are queer, but what can you do? I consider myself privileged to have been there right at the start of their journey with the show in Battersea, although it did take me about 3 hours to recover from it emotionally. That show went on to have a successful run in the Edinburgh Festival, transferring to the West End and then on tour. Rob lives and breathes musical theatre and has been performing professionally from the age of around 8, I think.
Yeah, about 8 years old.
Yes, as Michael Banks in Mary Poppins, Not With Me, devastatingly.
Gutted.
As the Artful Dodger, as Gavroche, and also in the 25th anniversary concert of Les Miserables, and as Reginald in the first ever run of Matilda when it started in Stratford-on-Avon. Their career matured with them, and after graduating from Royal Academy, they joined Les Mis on tour, Bedknobs on Broomsticks. They're now a stalwart of the Palladium pantomime each year, and last year they played the King's Head Theatre with the solo play Buyer and Seller. They continue to be super creative with their recently announced adaptation of the play Charlie's Aunt, which will be in my favourite theatre of all time, The Watermill, this autumn. I have a feeling there is very little Rob Madge does not know about musical theatre, so I'm very excited to talk to Rob Madge. Please talk musicals to me, Rob.
Oh, that was so lovely. Oh my goodness. You know more about what I've done than I do.
Little trip down memory lane.
Yeah, that was so lovely.
I can't believe it's so long and you're not even 30 yet. That's absolutely mad.
Thank you. I think it's the bald head. Everyone thinks I'm way into my 30s. And whenever I tell people I'm 28, they go, really? I'm like, yes, how rude. Yes, I'm still in my 20s.
But I still think of you as that young child in Les Miserables on stage, Gavroching it up with the cheeky wink.
That was the overriding note, you know, when I did Les Mis. It was just wink more. James Powell, bless him. Whenever I needed a boost of confidence, just throw in a wink. They'll love it. That's why. And I could never wink, so I'd turn my head 90 degrees and blink. So I kept doing that. Just looked like I had some kind of, I don't know, twitch.
That's hilarious. I had to smoke in my first job in Greece. God, you would never do that now, really.
Real cigarettes?
I smoked real cigarettes, and some people had herbals. They were those marshmallowy ones. I chose to smoke real ones because the marshmallow ones dropped. They drop everywhere. And I would suck the smoke in and breathe in through my nose, holding it all all the smoke in my mouth and then go as some kind of cheating smoking because I can't smoke at all.
Yeah, me neither. These are the little tips and tricks we got to do to get through an 8-show week.
We should set up a whole course on all the little cheats you need to have.
Yeah.
Winking, smoking, excellent.
We know about steaming. We don't need to do any vocal health anymore. It's all the other things that we need to know.
Was it your video the other day of people warming up for musical theatre and you were there with your steamer and your nebulizer and your...
Yeah, that one was unhinged. I don't know what I was thinking a few days ago. It's been so long since I've done those sketches. I really enjoy them. I just feel like I've covered everything now. I need something else funny to happen so I can take the mick out of it.
I loved it. And was it lots of different songs and coming in not with the musical director?
Yeah, Into the Woods prologue and Your Fault I'd done from Into the Woods. And just the hardest song. And for some reason, every single school decides to do Into the Woods, and it's torture for the poor students doing Your Fault.
I think there's an Into the Woods Junior now, I think.
I think it's only Act 1.
Yeah.
I think Act 2 is far too dark for the little kids to do.
Don't tell them what happens after Happy Ever After, or it gets a bit bleak.
No, I mean, it is the entire point of the show. Yeah. But yes, fine. They live happily ever after. Tick.
There's an episode of Friends, isn't there, where she hasn't found out that Bambi's mother died because her mum just stopped it before or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we need to protect them, don't we? We need to protect them from the giant's wife.
We do. Can we start with my questions for it? Because I honestly can't wait to get started because I know how musical theatre mad you are.
Yeah, unashamedly.
Absolutely unashamedly. Okay, let's get started with my first question, which is, how did Rob and musical theatre first meet?
I believe the first time I realised I loved musical theatre was probably the making of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the musical DVD.
Oh, wow.
Now, that was the first show I saw. And I loved it. I was entertained. But what I really enjoyed was seeing the backstage antics and the construction. That really fascinated me when I was a kid. And that's when I started wanting to put things on. And do you remember Dress Circle?
I lived in there.
Me too. And I miss it so much.
Hugely.
But that was a huge part of my childhood. And every time we come to the theatre in London, it was always very exciting to travel down to London. Didn't happen often. But when it did, we'd go from Euston and we'd go up Warren Street. And on the way up Warren Street, up Tottenham Court Road, we'd stop off at Samuel French Bookshop. I'd look through the scripts in the Samuel French Bookshop, which also isn't there anymore. Yeah. And we keep going up Tottenham Court Road, we go up to Seven Dials, and then I'd go into Dress Circle, and then we go and watch a show. It was mine and my mum's routine. And when I discovered the Chitty DVD, I just watched it on repeat. And now it's on YouTube. So if anyone hasn't seen the making of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it's the original cast of 2002 London Palladium, and still the longest running show at the Palladium, I believe. Longest running musical.
Is it really?
I believe.
Wow, crikey.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
3.5 years it ran there.
Yeah, I think it's still the longest running. And I think only Sound of Music comes kind of close. But I'd always liked musicals, but I think for me, when I first realised that that's something really struck a chord with me, was watching that.
I love that. I love that it's the behind the scenes antics that got you interested.
It always has been.
Because you then see the fun and the heart behind it, don't you? And that is what is the fun for us being in it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's lovely to go on stage and pretend to be other people, but it's doing it with other people and the team behind it.
Yeah. I think that's what I realised very early on. Actually, no, I acted on this very early on. Didn't realise it until much later, that the acting was only a tiny little facet of it for me. For me, it was always about building the show, and even doing living room shows. It was never about, I'm going to sing really well for mum and grandma in the living room today. It was always in my head like, okay, where is this costume change going to be? Is it going to be in the office? Is it going to be in the dining room? And I need to get, stage right. Ariel's wig needs to be stage right, aka by the fireplace, and her bra needs to be, I don't know, in the loft. For me, it was always the mechanisms of how you put the thing together and all the backstage videos. I mean, I always used to watch, I don't think they do them much anymore, but I remember there was a video of Hannah Waddingham when she did The Wizard of Oz backstage going from Miss Gulch to Elphaba.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Same thing.
first name to her, going from Miss Gold to the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
And now that's a huge trend on TikTok and things. These quick change videos, people are obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Marisha Wallace did one of her and Guys and Dolls in a very quick Adelaide change. And it got, I think, like 10 million views. People are fascinated by that.
Wow. Well, then downstairs in my stagey loo, there's a Guinness Book of Records certificate from our house because Mike had the Guinness Book of Records. Until recently, it's just been broken by his old youth theatre, which he's devastated about.
Wow, of all the people to break his streak.
I know. How dare they? At least it kept it in the sort of realm of his world.
In the family, yeah, keep it in the family.
Because I think he did 27 or 28 quick changes in our house.
Oh, gosh.
All done with magnets and Velcro, and it's incredible.
God, it's so often people forget how much of your job as an actor is getting changed.
Yeah.
That's my biggest takeaway from Les Mis when I did it as an adult. My biggest takeaway was you're just constantly getting changed the whole time. It's like you're in a dressing room in a shop or something, constantly just, I'll try this on now, try it on for size, walk about in it for about 20 seconds, sing a bit of It's Your There, come off, put something out, put another pair of rags on. It takes up so much of your time.
It's like being in Topshop, going out, singing a chord and going back.
Yeah. You know, when you like pull the curtain back in a dressing in a shop and you like show your friends, like, what do you think? And you parade for a little bit. That's all it is. That's all acting in a big musical is. You come through the curtains, you show it off.
That's your next video.
Oh, yeah. The quick changes. I've never done a quick change. Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's your inspiration. The big documentary for my generation was The Heat Is On.
Yes.
The Making of Miss Saigon.
Another great one.
I could quote that pretty much line for line, really. That's on YouTube as well. So for the listeners, get onto YouTube.
Yes.
That was another thing we did in lockdown, Mike and I. We would look for documentaries about musicals to watch. And Chitty was one of them, actually. And I don't think I saw it when it was broadcast. Yeah, it's a great one with the auditions and everything.
The auditions, Emma Williams going on the stage for the first time when she was 18 years old. How unbelievable is that? And there's a great clip of Nicola McAuliffe, who played Baroness Bomber, going into her dressing room for the first time, and they edit it side by side with Emma. Because, you know, Nicola's run the gamut at this point.
Yeah.
And she's in there, she's like, well, it's basically a cupboard with a sink. And Emma Williams cut to, oh my goodness, this is my dream come true. The way they edited it, that, you know, ingenue actress versus been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's just campus hits. It's so good. You must all watch.
I mean, they were cupboards with sinks because when I joined, I took over from Emma. But as part of his extension of his contract, the incredible Anton Rogers was like, please, can I not do stairs anymore? So they gave him Emma's dressing room, and rightly so.
Oh.
And so I was up a few flights of stairs in a cupboard. But you know what? I loved it. You don't need room in your, like you say, you're never in there really because you're changing downstairs. No. So it's fine, but cupboard with a sink.
We've probably got the same one, the one that I'm in now in the pantomime, because I have to go up a few. Oh, how funny.
Yeah, probably. But the Palladium though, how fabulous. When did Rob first become personally involved with being in or backstage or working on a musical?
The first professional show I did was Mary Poppins when I was 9.
Oh.
Yeah. That was an absolute dream.
Just that little show.
Just that little show where the kids never leave the stage.
Nope, ever.
Justice for Jane and Michael's in that show. It demands a lot out of those kids, actually.
It really does. And Chitty as well, actually. They don't leave the stage in Chitty. And if they do, they're in the wings waiting to go back on.
I think the longest time the kids are off stage in Poppins is being Mrs. Banks' reprise. That's the only time I can remember where we'd sit down and, you know, every now and then you're waiting in the nursery, waiting for that to come down. But it's never for very long. But yeah, that was my first show. And, you know, I'm from a little town near Birmingham, rarely went to London. And then I was thrust into Old Compton Street. And I just remember the things that you'd see coming out of that theatre. It was a whole new world, as Aladdin and Jasmine would say. And the chaperones are covering our eyes. The theatre's next to GA White, isn't it? The Prince Edward. I mean, it was hysterical. That was my first proper show. I mean, I was doing the Amdram musicals since I was about 6. Our local village did a little pantomime, and I'd always do that with my dad. Me and my dad played Tooth Fairies one year, which was fun.
Hang on, and that was when you were like 6?
Yeah. That was fun.
I love that.
Yeah,
That sounds incredibly cute.
it was very wholesome.
So were your mum and dad involved in the Amdram then?
That would be a stretch. I'd say I towed them along. My mum, one year, she helped sell the raffle tickets and she served up the tea and cakes in the interval. That was just one year though, but that
Very
was
important.
then on the final night, they make a fuss of everybody that's been involved and they get all the girls, the tea ladies up on stage and give them some flowers to say thank you. Mum had stage fright. She couldn't go up there to collect her flowers. So now I make sure she metaphorically collects her flowers at every given opportunity. But yeah, she was like, I'm not coming. I was like, it's in front of 50 people in a little school. She's like, I'm not going up there. I was like, they just want to say, well done, Mum. And my dad's always been a joker, but he only ever did it when I wanted him to.
Right.
There was a year when I wasn't available and Dad was considering doing it. I said, if you go on that stage without me, and bless him, he didn't do it. Awful.
Did you take them along then, Rob? Was that, were you like, I've heard there's a 6-year-old going, I've heard they do shows down there. Can I be in them?
No, it was my dad's mate from the local pub. Mate
Yeah.
sewed the costumes. So we went to go and see her one year. And then
Yeah.
the year after I said I want to do it, I want to be in it.
I think Amdram is given such a bad rap. It's such a hotbed of talent and such a great sort of grassroots place for people to find what they love and find their tribe.
Yeah, it's vital. Even if it's not going to lead to people wanting to do it properly, it fosters such a creativity and a confidence that only the arts really can, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many other things that build confidence, but there's just something about theatre that requires people, really, really giving their all.
Yeah. We may be biased, but it's the best.
Yeah, I'm so biased.
And how was Mary Poppins for you then? How was that show for you?
Magical. I still don't know how the carpet bag works. They didn't, I didn't know. I mean, I saw bits and bobs, but they really did make me feel really special and they really looked after the kids on that job. I mean, it was we were really spoiled for that to be my first job and for people to take me under their wing the way they did. I mean, I did it with Scarlett Strallen and Gavin Lee and, bless him, Gavin Creel. To have been introduced to the world by those people, I still feel privileged to this day that, oh my goodness, those are the people that I kind of used to watch wide-eyed and learn from. And they had time for me. They had more than time for me. There was like a mutual respect, which is kind of rare. A lot of people don't.
I think child actors get a bad rap, don't they? Like we said about Amdram, I think,
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, kids, I don't want to talk to them. But in Mary Poppins, you have to foster a relationship. They're your co-workers.
Yeah, you had to spend most of your stage time with those little buggers.
And you know what? They're much more fun than some of the adults. Much more fun.
Name the names. You never will.
It's great fun. It's great fun. And obviously you'd have watched Scarlett Strallen in the Chitty documentary.
Yeah.
I imagine, because she was there in the first cast and sort of worked her way up to then playing Truly.
She was, yeah.
Fabulous.
So was she doing it when you took over from Emma?
Yeah, she was my understudy.
Wow.
And I think in the original cast, she was ensemble and covered Violet.
Yeah.
And then she played Violet and understudied me. And then she took over as Truly and then went into Mary Poppins. Like, she's the Sherman Brothers queen. It's lovely.
She is, isn't she? So are you. You both rule that kingdom.
There's a few of us.
Yeah.
Is there a musical that you have seen over and over again? Are you a repeat attender to any musicals?
When I was a kid, it was Chitty. I was just obsessed with it. I was really sad I never got to be in it. I was always angry. I remember watching Jeremy and Jemima fly and being furious that to this day I've still never flown in anything.
How is
God's
that
sake.
possible?
Come on, Palladium Panto. When am I going to get some wires?
Come on. Is that in your contract for this year, please?
I'd try every year to get it in my contract. I'm not having it. No, I'll enter stage right to a pyrotechnic, say a poem, and that'll do me. That does me just fine. Yeah, whenever it would go out on tour, I would go and see it again. I was obsessed with it up until the age of about, I don't know, until my early teens. There always seemed to be a Chitty going on somewhere. So I saw that a lot as a kid, saw The Lion King a lot. But now, as of late, I've seen Wicked so much as recently. And I hadn't seen it since 2000. 2006, but in the past year, I've seen it about 4 blooming times, just because it's one of those shows where we're always going to know somebody that's in it. We're always going to know somebody that's Elphaba, because now they have a third cover Elphaba. My very good friend from university went on as third cover Elphaba, which was wild. I mean, we went to Warwick University together and we just did Musical Theatre Society.
Yeah.
And we did an illegal production of Wicked. We performed it, we rehearsed it over a weekend. I mean, it was so haphazard, it was brilliant. And I was the director and I cast her as Elphaba in that.
Oh, there you go.
So I thought, well, I must go and see her do it properly.
Has she put it in her biog? I hope she has.
Whenever the little cow, love you, Jess Aubrey, but whenever she posts nostalgic throwbacks, I never get any credit for giving her big break at Warwick University. I'm fuming. She's so fabulous. And then I went back to see it a couple of days ago for, Zizi and Emma's debuts.
Oh, the cast change, yeah.
Yeah. So
fabulous.
Basically, if I know someone in a show, which is becoming more and more apparent these days, just because, the more jobs you do, the more you meet, I'll just go back. It's lovely. I love sitting through Wicked every now and then. It's a little treat.
And when they're good shows, I mean, there's a reason why these shows have run and have cast after cast after cast, is because they are great pieces of musical theatre, aren't they?
Yeah. I feel like I'm at that point now where it almost feels like me and my mates are doing this sort of, we're still playing dress up and we're like, how have they let us in it? Like, to see my mate play Elphaba, like, oh, we're at that age now where our pals are taking on these roles that we used to dream of when we were tiny. And it almost feels like imposter syndrome. It's like, oh my God, are you really? It's really exciting time for me now to see all my mates who train together and we've gone through a lot together are suddenly really finding their feet. And one of my good pals is the lead in Prada at the minute, and she was a swing on Bedknobs and Broomstick, Georgie Buckland. And this is her West End debut, and it's the lead in Devil Wears Prada. I mean, she's phenomenal. So I'm doing a lot of going to support my mates at the minute, and that's one of my favourite things about this industry. You never know where it's going to lead. You never know what your friends are going to be doing. And
yeah, and I think that's what's so important when you're working in the industry, to go and support each other and see each other, because it can be quite a lonely old job, this, can't it?
Yeah.
And so to hold on to the friends you make, because it's, it's so transient. When you're in a job, you're in it for a year, sometimes 6 months, sometimes, all changes. But you make these incredible friendships in these high energy, high pressure situations. And then suddenly you're finished and that's it. So it's lovely to have that.
I feel like it's an unrelatable concept for a lot of people that don't do it. You make these really intense friendships that either go on or could last a contract being 6 months, 12 months. It's a very bizarre thing.
You'll always have that in common, won't you? And then if you don't see them for a year, you still pick up where you left off.
Yeah. So finding a good support network around you is just so important. And so that's why I'm going back to see a lot of things over and over again these days, really, to be like, oh my gosh, now you're Elphaba.
Jumping back a bit, Rob, but what I think is really interesting about what you've said about, loving the documentaries, loving the backstage stories and the support network that we have in this industry. When you're doing a solo show, you don't have those people on stage with you. But what I loved about definitely your Instagram stories and things like that, about when you were doing your solo show, you and Rosie, who I think is your stage manager, you became thick as thieves, and that was your support network.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people too, but you find people around you to be that team.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's my stage manager on My Sons Are Queer. She must never listen to this because I will never live it down. She is the light of my life, and if she were ever to hear that, I would never have any street cred anymore. But we became each other's rock, and that was another instance of just, it felt like me and my mate let loose in a West End theatre. It was me, her, the wonderful Soundy Elliot, and my dresser Josh, and we were just us four. Like, we turn up an hour before the show and be like, shall we do a show in the West End, shall we? I mean, it was funny. It just felt silly, and because it was so concentrated, and I've never done a job before that is a West End job that comprises of 4 people. Yeah. Backstage. That's the other thing about a solo show. There isn't really such thing in my eyes.
Yeah.
There's a solo performer, but even the people that weren't in the building every day, that show would not ever been what it was without the work of Luke Shepherd and Pippa Cleary and Ryan Dawson-Lake and Georgia Even, the amazing creative team we had. I just said the words, really.
And wrote the words.
And sung the theme tune, did the theme tune. Also, the importance of the audience was so clear at doing a solo show. I mean, they became the other characters. I feel like that's a cliche. A lot of of people who do solo shows say that, but it is true. They become the other characters that you bounce off of. That relationship becomes so much more important than when you've got a co-worker beside you on stage and you can bounce off each other. You know, you can pull up that fourth wall. It doesn't matter. But when they're not laughing half as much or when they're not crying as much as you want them to, it's very, very apparent. And you really get in your head in the way that I don't when I'm, you know, with other people on stage, because that's all I've got to go off. And it's the only job I've ever done where I've really thought about the job, I think, as I'm doing it. When you're with a big company, you're able to, well, just play and just live it a little more. But when you're on your own in front of people, you know, that voice in your head is constantly going, oh, they didn't laugh as much. Move on, move on, move on. So you don't feel quite as present, weirdly, and also so much more present at the same time. Like you're really in it.
Yeah.
You're really investigating it constantly. I think it's the writer in me as well going, okay, I'll need to edit that tonight when I get home. So your brain's doing a different thing to what your mouth is doing almost.
Did you do that? Did you continue to make changes throughout it?
Yeah. And I think if you're not listening to your audience, I don't know why you're doing a piece of theatre, because in my eyes, it's a living, breathing organism that constantly evolves based on who's in on any given night. And that's why I love doing it. I mean, I wouldn't change it to the point of, you know, annoying everybody, having to change cues and all that stuff. But, you know, little gags would always change. Whenever we go back, Rosie would always go, oh, another script, a new script. I'm like, so sorry, yes, a new script. But yeah, that's why I do it. Yeah, you just got to let it grow, really. Otherwise, you may as well put it to bed.
Absolutely. I love that. And you have that control over it, which, you know, as someone who works in something that other people have written, we don't have that, do we? So it's special to have that control and that power to go, that didn't work, I'm going to make it different tonight.
It's great. And it's also because I'm still acting as well, having seen like both sides of that table is so advantageous in every way, because I know how the actor's feeling. We've done a workshop for a show that Pippa and I have written recently, and I can bring to that table what others kind of might not be able to. I know how these actors are feeling right now. I know what they're trying to express to us, and, you know, people kind of walk on tiptoes, and if you're not feeling it, we'll change it. And I understand why. And you've got to listen to your actors. Fellow writers out there, don't be precious. It's the worst thing you can do, because all people can offer you is something that hasn't been in your brain. And, you know, if this person has a better experience of this, you know, topic than you do, you've got to listen to people and implement it. And otherwise you as the writer just look a little bit stuffy. So it's really important to listen to actors when they have, you know, their suggestions, and vice versa.
Absolutely. Collaboration is, I think, potentially the most important word in theatre, I think.
Absolutely.
It's major. Yes. Rob, I'm going to move on to my next question.
Yes.
Because otherwise we'll be here forever. But I'm loving it.
I know, sorry.
No, it's good. This might have to be one of those 2-episode ones, because it's fabulous.
Just cut me out.
Which musical made you laugh the most? Which one makes you cry the most?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Acorn Antiques, I think, is a work of comic genius.
Yes.
I think those performances are a masterclass in physical and not just physical comedy in general. I think Victoria Wood was superlative and Julie Walters was phenomenal in that show. And what makes me cry the most? I always cry when I go and see Poppins again. That's probably nostalgia. But I do think it's a beautiful, beautiful show about parenting and what it means to be a family. It's not this show that's purely about, you know, Disney magic. It's really about Mr. Banks and his detachment and how this magic comes into their life and brings them back together, puts the kite back together. Now, that's not to say Mary Poppins doesn't steal the show. You were wonderful. But I just think it's a really clever piece of theatre. And I think because it's got the Disney IP attached to it, people often think it will be, you know, just a fluffy, big musical theatre. And it's just not. It's a really profound piece of work, I think. I think it's really heartbreaking at points. So Poppins is lovely. Cabaret, for some reason, makes me violently sob. I don't know why. As of late, I think because of 2025, there's something about that show that I think it unsettles and frightens to a point of tears. I went to see it recently with a friend, and at the end of Act 1, she's like, are you okay? I was like, I need to leave the theatre because it just feels scarily real. That message is, you know, looming.
And it's in quite an intense space, isn't it? Especially that production.
Yeah.
It's in the round.
Yeah.
You've come through this sort of rabbit warren of the theatre to come into it, where you're being performed listened to by incredible musicians and singers and stuff.
Yes.
And that's like, there's this whole pre-show. You do go on this sort of deep journey into that world of Germany in the 30s, which was terrifying. And like you say, it has so many mirrors held up to it right now in 2025 in some places.
There's many parallels.
Yeah.
I think that's what brilliant theatre does. It holds up a mirror to our current world, or it should do in some way. I mean, not all theatre has to do that, but I think the things that move me, that's definitely why, because I'm seeing something reflected that I either relate to or feels familiar, you know. And shows like that do a great job. I saw Next to Normal at the Dunmark last year, and that broke me. Have you ever seen that?
I saw it on Broadway, and yeah, it was one of those shows where it made me cry so much that I was like, I can't see that again. I've seen it now. And I don't want to put myself through it again.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Fun Home. I just can't. I'll see it once and that's it. I can't see it again.
It's too much.
I'm glad I saw it.
And the only other one, I have never actually seen the full show, but Judi Dench singing Send in the Clowns is just sublime.
I saw it. I was there. I went and watched that production.
Oh my
God.
Wow, what a thing to have seen.
I still can't believe I actually saw that because I don't think it was on for very long. And I was in college and I hadn't seen the show. I didn't really know the show. I knew the music, but I didn't really know the story.
Yeah.
And then she just sat on that bed in that red dress. And it was so small and yet so massive.
Yeah.
And I just, like my face was wetter than the sea when I came out. It was just incredible.
What a thing to have seen.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. Oh, there's a good documentary about that. Have you seen it?
No.
It's such a good documentary.
I let myself down.
It's on YouTube. It's a South Bank show about Judi Dench, and it's based around her rehearsals for Little Night Music. I am so happy to be able to gift you that information.
Well, that is this evening's entertainment sorted.
You are going to love it.
Me and Jude's.
Yeah, you're going to absolutely love it.
Wow.
There's a really interesting bit in there about what she sees in a piece of dialogue. She said she sees a line and she'll be like, there's something funny in that line. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to find it. And you just see her trying this line over and over again in rehearsals. And then she gets it and you're like, oh my God. That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Wow.
It gives me goosebumps remembering it.
Yeah, she makes it look so easy.
She does.
Wow.
She really does. So apropos of that, this is my confession question. We've had this chat on email. I admit to never having seen a professional production of West Side Story. I'm going to be kicked out of the business.
And I am with you.
And you haven't either. So apart from the professional production of West Side Story, is there any other musical that you haven't seen that you really feel like you should have or you wanted to?
Acorn Antiques, but I was too young at the time. But I've got the DVD to see me through. And I wish I could have had the funds to have gone and seen Bette Midler do Hello, Dolly. I wish I could have seen that.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like that was an event.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that was a one-of-a-kind thing.
She is quite something, and she'd see her leading that show in that role would have been absolutely sublime because she's so iconic and her humour, I think she's fabulous. Like, have you ever seen that concert of hers where she and her singers are all mermaids?
Yes.
And they're sort of dancing and they're in wheelchairs, but then they get up and they bounce around and sing, and she sings and she's jumping.
Superlative.
She's so creative and funny.
I do wish I could jump back to that era where Julie Andrews was doing Victor Victoria and on Broadway, and the amazing story of how she turned down a Tony nomination because they hadn't nominated the rest of the company. And she said, no, and that's theatre being a collaborative art for you right there. And that's, you know, if Julie Andrews can say, well, because you haven't acknowledged anybody else, I'm not going to. What an icon. Good for her. Good for her.
I'd love to have the balls to do that.
And if I'm sure she did. Did Barbara Streisand perform live in musical theatre at any point? You know, Carol Burnett, if they were ever in musical theatre, you know, I'd like to go back to that era. But I do cling on to the fact I did see Patti LuPone in Company, and that keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Barbara Streisand only did it twice. I think she did Funny Girl, and before that the show that made her name was I Can Get It For You Wholesale. And she then went to Los Angeles to film Funny Girl and never went back because obviously then
Hollywood came calling.
yeah, I often wonder about this, Rob, is that, you know, how we've had the Wicked movie this year and it's phenomenal and I love it. I wonder if there's any part of Cynthia or Ariana that sort of go, oh, I'd love to do that every night. As much as we would maybe go, oh, I'd love to do this on film.
Yeah.
Because they've both done 8 shows a week. They've done their time in musicals. And I wonder if they're like, oh, once you've filmed Popular, that's it, it's done.
Exactly, yeah. It's consigned to the history books then, isn't it? That version.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd want to play around with it a bit more. I mean, they both come from theatre, don't they? I mean, Ariana, that's where she cut her teeth. She's such a theatre nerd. That's what I love so much about her. And I love that. I love that they picked her for Glinda mostly for that reason as well. She's objectively brilliant in that role anyway, but also the fact that, you know, it really was her childhood dream come true. She went backstage to see Kristen when she was tiny. You know, I think it's really lovely.
I love all that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. People sort of give the Wicked press tour sort of a bad name, but I loved it. I loved how much they cared about
They
it.
are theatre kids. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, that they are the epitome of theatre.
They just bawled their eyes out all the time.
They did. Poor things. But yeah, that press tour, there could be a whole musical about that press tour. Maybe I'll write that. Maybe that's my next one.
Yeah, do that. That's another one. Rob, do you want to take a couple of minutes and we shall come back after a short break? Thank you.
Lovely.
G'day listeners, another show you can find on the Bloop Network is Thrash and Treasure, where legendary artists from Broadway, West End, Hollywood and beyond deep dive into 2 seemingly opposite genres of music, heavy metal and musical theatre. From Tony winners to reality TV contestants, hear a vast range of iconic guests learn about genres of music they've never been exposed to. With over 130 episodes, there's bound to be a silly, sassy and insightful conversation that'll have you reaching for the leather pants and hairspray. And here is a sneak peek. Oh, there's my script. We're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, but I'm merrily popping along with Anthony Drew.
It wasn't right, but it was on its journey to becoming more right.
Yep, it was just so.
It was just so, as one of the critics wrote, I think.
Sorry, I don't mean to bring up that then. I didn't know that. Oh no, foot and mouth. That's just been clever. Sorry.
The following year, 1990,
Yep.
It was done at the then Tricycle Theatre in Kilburn in North London. And then it was actually Steven Spielberg, straight after it had been on at the Kilburn Theatre, somebody from Spielberg's animation department, which was then called Amblimation, had seen the show. And Cameron got a letter from Steven Spielberg saying, I haven't seen it, I've heard about it, I want it. So he paid us a lot of money to buy the film rights for Just So. So George and I and Cameron flew out to Hollywood, which we'd never been to before, and we spent 2 weeks working with Steven Spielberg on how we were going to turn our little show into a feature animation. And sadly, it never happened. And by the time we were getting closer to getting the script better, we'd seen the designs of the characters, we'd seen designs of the backgrounds, because it was going to be made in Europe, because Spielberg thought that Disney had all the best animators in America, so he was going to set up his own animation studio over here. But then DreamWorks SKG happened, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was then head of their animation, wanted all new projects, nothing that was hanging on from Amblin days. So sadly, Just So didn't ever happen. And nor did Cats as an animation, with a screenplay by Tom Stoppard, which they were working on, which would have been very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And another one called Carnival.
Audience at home, you wouldn't have seen my arms go crazy when he was like, just casually Steven Spielberg optioned his musical.
He was really lovely. He was such a regular guy. In fact, while we were with him for 2 weeks, we were staying at the Universal Sheraton. They got a car for us to drive down the hill and round the corner and into the Amblin lot, at Universal Studios. You could almost have walked quicker, but they wanted us to have a car because everyone drives in Hollywood. But he was lovely. And for the following 2 years, I got a Christmas present from him. I had the first time it was a great big wicker hamper of baked goods like zucchini bread and things like that. And the second year, it was a toy megaphone that could change your voice. So depending on which setting, you were either a robot or an alien or a baby. And you spoke with your normal voice and it projected this weird sound out the other end.
God, I'm having conniption fits inside right now, ladies and gentlemen. Steven Spielberg just casually gives you fucking Christmas presents. Oh my God, fathers. I'm not at all jealous. I'm not jealous at all.
He's an extraordinary brain. And going to they call them bungalows at Universal Studios. Each apartment has its own bungalow. So Amblin Bungalow, which is the one we were at, we go on those little golf cart things to get to it and to get to the canteen for lunch and everything. The door knocker was E.T. in brass. There was a well in the garden with the Jaws shark coming up out of it. And because he was working on Jurassic Park at that time, it was way ahead of it, but he was working on it.
Don't tell me this.
The room was full of giant, cuddly Tyrannosaurus Rexes and stuff. And we had to keep going into that room because that's where the keyboard was that George and I performed the songs on to Steven Spielberg.
I feel faint.
So given that the show hadn't transferred, at least the Spielberg thing of it kind of felt like an exciting step on its gestation. But after that didn't happen, and we started moving on to Honk and Peter Pan and various other shows we were working on, one day
Okay, I need to welcome you back to part 2, don't I?
No.
Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of Talk Musicals to Me. Today we are talking musicals with the incredible Rob Madge. Thank you for coming back to part 2, Rob.
Oh, I wouldn't have missed this for the world.
It's such fun talking to you.
Loving it.
So, we were talking earlier about junior versions of musicals. If you were in charge of schools in our country, what musical would you put on the school curriculum?
Gosh, such a pageant answer, but I feel like no two musicals are the same and you will take different things from them. I mean, I respect Acorn Antiques as a piece of art just as much as I respect Cabaret as a piece of art, and they are so poles apart.
So different.
But both Julie Walters as Mrs. Overall and Alan Cummings MC have informed so much of my life and my taste. But what could people really learn from? Well, yeah, Cabaret. Cabaret, and people should rewatch that show to draw the parallels. I think anything that, again, repeating myself, but holds up a mirror. It's a hard question to answer. What do you think?
Well, I think Cabaret would be my one, or Fiddler.
Fiddler, yeah.
But I do think, like you say, any musical, you learn so much, not necessarily from the plot, like with Acorn Antiques, but you learn so much, like we were saying earlier, about working as a team and collaborating and being in the band or being on the lighting or backstage helping people get changed. It's such a team effort. And I think it just makes kids feel like they belong somewhere.
Yeah.
It gives them a job. It gives them something that if they weren't there, that show wouldn't happen as well as it does. And I think to feel like you are vital to something is something rare but important.
Yeah, totally agree. And giving them access to that, which is, why theatre prices need to be so much cheaper. And, that's another story. But if people don't have access to it, they're not going to be inspired by it. Because if you can't see it, how can you ever be it or learn from it? So schools just need to be showing more theatre. Even, they used to wheel in the little telly in the classroom, and that we used to watch Into the Woods, that original cast VHS. I mean, it was Silver Young Theatre School, so...
Oh, right, okay.
So that makes sense.
Right, okay. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Birmingham, well done.
Theatre as a whole, I don't think schools should ignore it, because you never know what it could inspire in somebody. Like you say, it can provide such a place of belonging. And musicals can do things that other pieces of theatre and screen can't. You have license to express so much more in song and lyric.
Yeah.
I think that really contributes to the feeling of identity. When people feel that they can relate to something, it's often because of a song. There's not such a close connection with pieces of work. So yeah, more musical theatre just shown in schools, I think.
You speak so fabulously about what theatre can do and the importance of that. Is there a director there inside you waiting to go? You said you directed Wicked.
I directed an illegal version of Wicked at Warwick University, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You didn't direct Wicked. Sorry, I'll take that back. You directed a version of it.
No, I directed, it was called Green is the New Black. Yeah, I did actually direct our proper non-illegal production of Little Shop of Horrors at university as well, which was very fun. That's a brilliant show. Yeah, I think so. I'd love to give it a good go.
I think that would be fabulous. I think you'd be wonderful at it.
Yeah, maybe.
Watch this space, guys. Watch this space.
I need to make my mind up though.
You can do it all. Why do you don't have to settle. No one needs to settle.
Well, I can't sew or anything, so I can never do costumes. So I'll leave that one to people that can actually do it.
Yeah. The skills. Is there a musical that has brought you close to actually never wanting to be involved in musical theatre ever again?
You're trying to get me to never work again.
You don't have to name it. I promise you don't have to name it.
Well, yes. There has been. For me, I really don't like watching, how do I word this? It's very, very apparent when you see something that has been unchallenged in the rehearsal room, where people have maybe felt that they can't step onto the hierarchy of whoever's created this piece, and you're watching rich privilege go unchallenged. It's very apparent when you're watching those pieces of theatre. I'm not saying the pieces are problematic in their nature. I'm not saying that, that they're societally inappropriate. It's not that. It's the basic construct of, oh, is this a good... I mean, how do you quantify that? But sometimes you're watching things that could be so much better and could have so much more power and impact. And you just know that people have just not felt comfortable to change that in the room. I think you know what I mean. It's just very clear.
I know exactly what you mean. And I think that, there've been a few examples of that, haven't there, recently? And I think it is that thing when you see people up on stage doing what they do always incredibly well. The people on stage, the actors and everybody involved is doing what they can for the show. But if the show is essentially a vanity project or, somebody trying to make their mark without collaborating, again,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Then it's so clear. It doesn't work.
I'm not talking about, things that are, being developed by new writers or, we all have to try different things and see what sticks.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people in a position of power that have thought, oh, I can do a musical. Do you know what I mean? It's such a specific art form. And when I see something that either doesn't evolve the art form or pay tribute to it, it's very frustrating because it's got such a rich history. And if it's not broke, don't fix it.
When it's patronized, isn't it? It's that thing of like, oh, I'm going to put on a musical because it looks easy.
Yeah, that's it.
Because we do. When a musical is good, it looks easy.
That's it.
And people put it on and it absolutely fails and they go, oh, well, it's the audience's fault or something. And you're like,
yes, that's exactly it. People that think it's a piece of piss and then, give it a go.
Whereas actually you work with directors like, I don't know, Trevor Nunn or like the American Broadway musical directors who weirdly in America, I think Jack O'Brien is a bit of an anomaly, but it seems you either direct musicals or plays on Broadway. There's very little crossover.
Yeah.
Whereas over here, they all get involved, they all muck in, And I think that when you work with a director who really knows how to make a musical work, who is investigated, who respects the fact that it's actually a very convoluted and difficult art form to get right. It's such a joy because the respect for it is so massive.
It's why the Wicked film, it's why we all love that film, because John M. Chu has just embraced the form and not hidden the fact that it's a musical. That's also something, when you watch a musical that's trying to hide the fact it's a musical. I mean, this is the art form that you have picked. Embrace it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I could talk to you for days about this, Rob. This is fabulous.
Yeah.
Is there any musical, I suspect I know which one it might be, which has inspired you, has changed your life, that you've come out of going, I see the world differently now? You go in and you're in the farm and you come out and you're in Oz.
What do you think is the answer to that? I'd be curious to know what you think I'm going to say.
I think it's probably Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't know.
Actually, no, I was going to say Acorn Antiques. Yeah, probably Acorn Antiques for me. It's just informed so much.
So tell me about it, because I don't know that musical very well. I've seen it on the DVD, but what is it about that show that brings you so much joy and life?
Oh, just the acknowledgement that it's a musical and all these people are trying their very best to put something on. And the best comedy for me comes from tragedy. People trying desperately to make something happen, either for themselves or for some other cause. And we, the audience, know that that's never going to happen. We know that Boadicea Beaumont is never going to be the Judi Dench that she thinks she is. And she's hysterical for that reason. And then she comes out as Mrs. audiences overall, thinking that she's got, this is her big break on the West End. I just think it's the perfect comic creation. And it's why I also love characters, like Basil Fawlty, Alan Partridge. These are all people who desperately want something and want to present an image of themselves to the world. But we, the audience, go, you ain't that. And, my desperate desire to put on a Disney parade and to do it right this time. We all know that that's not going to happen, that you've got a dad who can't get the bubblegum working. And I just think Acorn Antiques, the way that they all fight to get that show right, and the odds are against them, and the timing of all the mistakes is just so perfect. I just think that cast is brilliant.
Directed by Trevor Nunn, one of the most respected directors.
Exactly. And he lampoons himself in that musical. There's a director played by Neil Morrissey who is a pastiche of Trevor Nunn. So him going, yeah, sure, why not? That's good theatre, when you drop your ego and do what's right for the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's just so much about that.
It's a hard thing to get right, I think. That kind of, like you say, that struggle that people want to do something and the audience know it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
There's something about, especially in comedy, like you say, there's a difference between missing the obvious. I always feel that's a bit of a cheat, really. Do you know what I mean? When somebody could easily have said, but the ball's not tonight, Cinderella. It's not tonight. And yet she goes there and the ball's not happening. When something that obvious could have happened to change the story, that's always a bit fake, I think, to me. Whereas, like you say, Basil Fawlty, what was the other example you gave?
Partridge.
The delusion is so solid, that there's no way, even if somebody said the ball is not tonight, there's no way they wouldn't go. It's believable.
Oh, no, it is. It's that, again, cliche, but you're not playing it for laughs. You're truly frustrated that Julie Walters has missed her cue again. Celia Imrie delivers such a restrained anger at this. Celia Imrie's playing this actress who should be doing something so much better than this, but she still gives it her all. And she's wonderful at Miss Babs, and then she's being let down left, right and centre. It's just so restrained, so perfect.
Brilliant. I might have to watch it again. You're really selling it to me, Rob.
I just really think Act 1 specifically, which they never did again, when Rhea Jones took over and did the tour, but they only did Act 2 for the tour. They split Act 2 into 2 acts. But Act 1 is a real masterpiece. The Les Mis parody is phenomenal. So I think whenever I, do a video taking the mick out of theatre, it does all come from that Acorn Antiques kind of writing, and that Victoria Wood was just unparalleled.
Oh, she really was. She's such a huge loss to us, isn't she? Really massive.
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much covered this. What would you say is the secret to a good musical?
Yeah, we have something that embraces that it's a musical, acknowledges its form, doesn't shy away from it, and isn't literal. It doesn't have to be, it's a piece of theatre. You can do anything with it. There's some pieces of theatre that are this and they're wonderful, but it doesn't have to be, end on proscenium arch, literal sets, costumes, lights, exactly how it would be. You're in a space, a shared space with an audience, and anything can happen.
And you're singing.
And you're singing, you're bursting into song within a sentence.
So many opportunities to do exciting things with it, isn't there? That's what I love about musicals, is that because of the singing, because of the dance, because of the music, it can expand in so many different ways that a play can't really.
And not patronising your audience as well, acknowledging that give it 5 minutes, they'll have suspended their disbelief and they will absolutely believe that people would now burst into song. And I think some shows can really panic about that and shy away from the theatricality of it all. But your audience has bought a ticket and will buy into that. That's why they're there.
Yeah, that's why they spent that money.
Yeah, they want to be swept along into that, razzmatazz or the emotion and like I said before, songs can do things that dialogue can't. So make the most of your lyric. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is the final question.
Oh.
You can actually choose a piece of your own work here, if you like, something you've been in or something you've written. Is there a musical which you turn to nourish your soul? If you're feeling crap, if you've had a bad day, if you've just seen an awful musical, which musical would you go to repair yourself?
Oh, that's a very good question. Shooting Star, Mary Poppins' Final Flight, I will listen to if I need a good cry.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful piece of music. No One Is Alone, Into the Woods. It's often songs. It's not so much when I need something to nourish me.
Yeah, no, go for songs. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much the actual whole thing. I think, what do I need to listen to right now? Yeah, anything by Sondheim, really. Oh, and I tell you what I love. I love Cinderella, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella.
Oh, Oh, fabulous.
That really does nourish me. Specifically, the Whitney Houston and Brandy version from 1997. That's my childhood right there. And yeah, I don't know. There's so many. What about you?
Light in the Piazza.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I love that. I've said this is about 3 podcasts now because people go, what about you? Which one's yours? Light in the Piazza. Because when I put it on, I can literally feel my ears relax. It's so weird. It does something physically to me. That and the end of Mary Poppins, the shooting star, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, at the end of Mary Poppins, she flies over the Banks house and they're on stage because it's an open house and they're in their nursery with their mum and dad, the children. And at a certain point in the music, there's a key change or something fabulous happens. And she opens her umbrella and she flies out over the audience and out through the theatre somewhere. I went through the roof. I went up to the back of a circle. You know, I've been lots of different places in different theatres.
You must have seen the roofs of so many of the UK's theatres.
And you have to get back on stage for your bow. So that's the most important thing in the tech is to find, when you're touring, your route back on stage.
God, yeah, of course.
To get back on stage for the bow.
Have to leg it.
So what's next for you, Rob? You said you're writing more stuff for us?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of writing at the minute, which is nourishing my soul. It really grounds me. It's almost as though you forget that it's ever going to be on. You're sort of just doing it for yourself. It's almost like a diary entry, and then you finish it, have to send it off to the producer and go, oh crap, we actually do have to put this on.
And this is something you've done since you were tiny. You know, I remember when you got Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, you showed us your original version of it on like a script or something.
I was in Oliver the Musical at the time at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, and I wrote a 110-page script of Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, and I sent it to Cameron Mackintosh in a jiffy bag, and he replied and he said, this is really, really lovely piece of work, shows great promise. Unfortunately, it's not something we're interested in at the minute. And I went round backstage, went round all the dresses, went through all the kids and made a little, I did market research. I said, do you like this film? Do you think it would make a good musical? Tick yes, tick no. And the majority was an overwhelming yes. So I knew it was only a matter of time.
Yes. And then you were in it.
And then I was in it. Not my version, sadly. That's still yet to see the light of day.
Which was the better one?
Well, obviously I'm biased.
Deep down in your heart.
The codfish in mine was called The Codfather. Oh, it's such a missed opportunity. Smoked a pipe and everything.
So when was the first time you put pen to paper then to actually write? You must be very young going, I'm going to write a show.
Yeah. I mean, I turned Desperate Housewives into a musical as well when I was about 12. And I still think that would be a superlative musical.
Well, that needs to happen.
It was a jukebox, sadly. Here's the thing, I can't compose, so any musicals that I would write would sadly be jukeboxes. So thank God I've got Pippa Cleary by my side now.
Yeah, collaborate.
Yeah, I did Desperate Housewives, and the soundtrack was, it was around the year of Legally Blonde and Sister Act. You know, there was a lot of fabulous babies, and I think Brie Vanderkamp sang What You Want Is Me when her husband threatened to divorce her. It was wonderful. I was about, I think, I don't know, teenager when I started writing, but only took it seriously really with My Sons Are Queer. It was the first time I'd actually written something with the intention of maybe I should actually put something on that's in my brain.
So with Charlie's Aunt now, that's going to happen in October, November time?
October, November, yeah.
Great. So where did that come from? Where does that idea come from?
I knew that they were putting it on, so it came to me, and they asked whether I'd be interested in freshening it up a little. It's a different beast, actually, being commissioned. It's not something you think of as a writer. You just think, oh, you'll type something away, send it off and get it put on. But then when, you have a brief to fulfill, it's a totally different thing. But it's so up my alley. It's such a brilliant farce. And we're essentially, listen, I'm the one adapting it, so we're queering it up. So the whole premise is, for those who don't know, man disguises himself as woman, deceives everyone, ha ha ha. So it's about making that more relevant, but also we're keeping it within the period. There was talk of contemporizing it, and I thought, no, I want to show that we were here in 1892.
Absolutely.
I think there's something really fabulous about that, and in my mind it's going to have Bridgerton effect of pop songs from the current era, and period dress and period language, but I want it to be really kind of fabulous and fierce and still really funny. I'm keeping the core of it. There will still be that line, I'm from Brazil where the nuts come from. That's never going to go. That will always remain, but I'm just spicing up a bit.
There is a musical of it, isn't there? There was a musical of it called Where's Charlie that they did at Regent's Park. I saw it actually. Wasn't that long ago.
Did you?
Well, it was probably long ago for young people.
Yeah.
But for me, it feels like 2 years ago, but it was probably about 15, maybe even more.
As I'm writing it, I'm going, God, this would be a great musical, and
Yeah.
they should have another go at it, because they should bring it back, the musical, because I'd like to see it.
Well, I'm going to definitely go and see that and support, because I'm actually an associate artist of the Watermill Theatre, very proud associate artist.
Are you really?
Yeah, I've done a few things there. I did Crazy for You, Under Wood, Camelot, and a few other like concerts and bits and bobs there.
Oh, wow.
It's the most wonderful space to create and collaborate and play.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space.
And when we were in lockdown, here we go, is a circular way to end our podcast. When we were in lockdown, last time I wore this t-shirt probably, we were doing Camelot in the gardens of the Watermill to tables of 4, because that was the only way we could do a musical performance.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it was a really special time. We were there for about 6 weeks over the summer of 2020.
Wow.
Rediscovering theatre and trying to keep it alive during that horrible time. And you gave us that gift of your theatre journey and your Disney parade journey at the same time. And that's what we needed, wasn't it? It was that joy.
And not having it made us realise how much we love it. You know, you get caught up in the routine of it all. You go to audition, you forget actually how special it is what we do. I'm a writer. What was that?
Do you remember that moment of going, I'm going to press this button and upload this video? And did you have any inkling that it was going to change your life?
No, not at all.
No.
My dad got a VHS player because I was living back at my family home and had all these tapes, but we didn't have anything to play it on. So dad ordered one off eBay. I put that one in, and me and my mum and dad were just in hysterics. And I thought, oh, other people will definitely find this funny. And I also just wanted to show off my grandma, really. I just think my grandma was such a beautiful woman, and we'd not long lost her. And seeing her in video form, I thought, what a brilliant woman she was and how supportive. So I wanted to show her off, really. And then it just got bigger and bigger.
What was that wonderful thing she said when you were a baby, when you were born? What did she say? Let's end on this incredibly beautiful note of your wonderful grandma.
So my parents really struggled to have a kid. It took them many, many years. And when I was born, my grandma said, she's from Newcastle and lived in Walsall all her life. She's salt of the earth woman. And she came out with the most profound sentence that I think I've heard. She said, I think a baby waits for you. And I think it's such a beautiful sentiment. And and my parents were worth the wait. And now I get to do all these brilliant things because they supported me. And it's really important to support people that, if you like musical theatre, then let them do it, get it in schools.
And shine a light on the supporters. And thank you so much, Rob. And thank you to your fabulous family for gifting us you. And thank you for sharing all this. I need to write 10 more questions and ask you 10 more. This has been such a joy.
Well, I'll gladly come back anytime. This has been wonderful. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you, darling. Lots of love. Take care, darling.
All my love.
That was just so much fun. I loved talking to Rob and listening to their take on what musicals are and what they can be. Thank you so much to Rob for coming on, to you for listening. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to talk musicals to me.